Robert, I'm going to start with a video. I put some stuff on the back burner just so we can see who the new here. This one's good. I think this one's good. Yeah,
who the new sheriff is in town?
Yep.
Accelerate, right? To accelerate what we were doing already, but realizing that it wasn't enough. So what immediately started happening was that under the leadership of Brian Roberts and Jeff Shell, Comcast set up a fund to the value of $100 million to fight social justice and equality, and obviously supporting many, many important groups. But it really made a very public statement that we're going to put our money where our mouth is. We're not going anywhere. And it inspired action across every corner of our company.
Okay, I think we can stop it there, Robert. So this has caused quite a stir. Elon Musk, he's never been this is no throwing shade at Elon Musk. We're just stating facts. Is that he's pro free speech, but has never been anything close to an absolutist or even consistent. And I say that with respect. Banning Kanye West or blocking kicking Kanye off Twitter when it's not clear what rules he broke to justify that. Not bringing back Alex Jones when his justification for not bringing back Alex Jones made no sense because Jones wasn't even kicked off for anything related to statements about Sandy Hook. He's gotten into a bit of trouble now with some censoring up in Turkey. This came the day or two after appointing as CEO Linda Yaccarino, who is, we've discussed this, she's not just on a landing page on the WEF, she's actively involved with policy, ideologically with the WEF. He's appointed her as CEO the week after Tucker Carlson comes on and says, Twitter is the last place for free speech on the internet, which it isn't because there's Rumble. I'm biased, people, and I'll take it for what it's worth coming from me. She's actively involved in WEF. There's a lot of people out there who say that this appointment as a CEO, good decision or bad decision, leave that aside. It's a slap in the face of the people who have been supporting Elon Musk to basically, why not bring on Klaus Schwab himself? So a lot of people are waiting to hear your insights into this. I know mine are superficial, not reflexive, but I don't have the depth that I know that you're going to bring to this. What is your take on this decision? Is it bad? Is it a slap in the face? Is there good to be had from it? Or is there a hush-hush coming on this?
I see there's three different possibilities. So one possibility is what people have identified with concerns with her resume, which, the conservative treehouse, the last refuge, did a long resume look, various public statements. And that primarily includes her long career in the media, including at NBC Entertainment, the Advertising Council, big corporation advertising group, and the World Economic Forum, as you mentioned. And in that capacity has, made a lot of, supported the, whether she supported it herself or whether she was tasked with it, was very public in support of the vaccine effort by the Advertiser Council, which is heavily backed by big pharmaceutical industries and things of that nature. So the first possibility is that Elon Musk is decided he doesn't want to stick with the free speech mantra that's going to be too pricey. He's going to go the advertising route. He's going to return to the censorship route to monetize Twitter and back out of the free speech commitments he made when he first took over because maybe it's just too expensive. Second possibility is that, that she's weaseled her way in by misleading Elon about her intentions and is some sort of deep state or World Economic Forum or other plant to derail the efforts of Twitter to open up its space to maintain a freer space than was the case before, if not a fully free space. The third possibility is that she is a closet conservative, of some sort, that she's a closet free speech supporter. The reason to believe there is evidence for the third, which is what's extraordinary to me, is when people do likes on Twitter, they tend to forget because they tend to go to their own profile newsfeed. They tend to think that the only thing anybody externally sees is their retweets and their own tweets or their quote tweets. When in fact, you can go to their Twitter feed and look up anything they've liked on Twitter, unless it's a private Twitter page. I did this, recently, not too recently, but the issue came up recently in the case where I represent a gentleman who U.S. Bank, I'm alleging, conspired to use woke policies to basically bankrupt him out of a particular business and cause him direct economic harm for politically motivated purposes. One of the main co-conspirator complicit parties, in my view, was a general counsel, the lawyer for the Community Development Corporation, a division of, a branch of the U.S. Bank that ran its own show out of St. Louis. U.S. Bank is domiciled primarily in Minneapolis. And in one of the ways we substantiated our grounds to depose her to the federal court was documenting all the likes she had on Twitter, which was an extraordinary long litany of woke, crazy nonsense, in my view, and some very embarrassing public statements she was affiliated with. The net effect of it was the federal court allowed us to go forward to prove our conspiracy prima facie tort claims to unique tort in Missouri and to depose her. And guess what else happened? For U.S. Bank fired her when all that information was detailed just this couple of weeks ago. And so I went right away. I was like, okay, is Musk really going to betray all his promises overnight? Is she really a plant that's going to blow up her own future career by sabotaging somebody else such that she's unemployable by future corporations? That didn't seem like the necessary response, even though it was the overwhelming public reaction to the announcement of her employment. And so I went to her Twitter like feeds, what I found very useful in a range of these sort of corporate personality profiles. And I'll just say her Twitter like feed does not read like someone who's woke at all. She appears to be a religious conservative. She's constantly quoting Kathy Lee's various, not the crazy comedian Kathy, but the other one, quoting all of her Bible verses. She quotes Bible verses all the time. That she's liking Bible verse quotes. She's liking Jack Posobiec quotes. She's liking anti-ESG quotes. She's liking a whole bunch of Elon Musk quotes. She's saying, make Orwell Orwellian again. And this goes back years, not just after Musk buys Twitter. It's clear that she was proactively kind of aggressively pushing herself towards Musk. And then the question becomes why, right? If she's just a run-of-the-mill conventional wokester, why does she want to work for Elon Musk? If she's a wokester, why does her Twitter likes don't really confirm or conform to any of that? If she's a wokester, why is she quoting religious verses all the time, Bible verses all the time? So the alternative is she's simply ambitious. She's an ambitious person who wanted to achieve success in the corporate media landscape. And the best way to do that over the last 10 years was to go along with the woke agenda publicly. And even if it's not something they privately share, I got friends of mine that are agents in Hollywood that their clients and their employers would be shocked to know their politics. That they think that they're just everyday wokester lefties, flying the rainbow flag at home. And they're quite the opposite of that. Same in a lot of high-end corporations. Same in a lot of big law firms. I have friends that work at the White House. They're all these people, by the way, are members of our board. But you wouldn't know from their public resume or public statements any of this. You would assume they're in fact wokester-style, politically inclined individuals. And so the third possibility is that she's a closet conservative who saw in Musk an opportunity to maintain her ambition, but escape the wokester prisons of modern corporate media, modern entertainment industry media, and that she's not a true believer in the World Economic Forum, but used it to advance her own political ambitions. So now Musk himself has said that her role is going to be focused on getting advertisers and the rest, not on structuring the content rules of Twitter. So there's there's really kind of even a fourth possibility that she's just brought in for a limited role that has nothing to do with governing the guidelines of Twitter. The concerns are that Musk has previously made statements and reaffirmed these statements that he wants to make it into something that's like the Chinese social media app that integrates a PayPal function with a YouTube function, with a search function, with a social media function. And the best way to do that is to target certain audiences over time that would involve more censorship than is currently done. So I don't think she's kind of a plant, because that, if you go into a company and then sabotage that company, no corporation will ever trust you again. And
Well,
I get somebody to pay her off the backside, but Musk will fire her before that happens. And so I don't see that as a likely. I see that as a 10% chance. I say it's split between Musk wants to turn it into a more conventional corporate structure, and she's a closet conservative. What I can tell you is I've never known any wokester who spends every other week liking Bible verses. That's very unusual.
Part of that, I can go back to the myth, hello children, how do you do? Hello kids, fellow kids, how do you do, with Steve Buscemi meme, like, trying to, I don't know. Or, the liking could be bookmarking and not an actual act of affirmation or support. Remember Elon Musk was on the BBC talking about how the company is now worth 20 billion less than it was when he got it. And that could explain the bringing her on for marketing purposes. As far as the closet conservative goes, I'll bank that as much,
I'll make one addendum. She served on Trump's committee on fitness and whatnot. So she was known in Trump circles since 2017 as a Trump supporter.
Okay, well, maybe I thank you for shutting my big mouth before I opened it. But no, I'll say, in terms of that, some people will accuse her then. Oh, I can see that she was trying to infiltrate the WEF not as a source of,
You're just doing what you do if you want to advance your corporate roster. As if those opportunities are afforded, you jump at it. That's just, it may, to people that are out there that are in that sector, they know exactly what I'm talking about. The number of closet conservatives in positions of power would shock people. I know it because I helped a lot of them navigate the vaccine mandate territory, because they knew their opposition to the vaccine would out them within their industry. And so we went to great lengths for as many as we could to avoid them being outed. Some were, smartly shifted to an employer that didn't require that, so they could avoid public outing. But if you want to advance, it shows how disturbed wokerism is. Let's say it turns out she is a closet conservative. How bad is it in the corporate environment that someone like her had to completely disguise her politics and go along with a woke agenda that was directly contrary to her personal belief structure? Otherwise, she had to sacrifice ambition and employment for it. But that's a sad reality. So I rate it as even money. She's one, just because I know people in the Trump world. She took a Trump appointment in 2017.
But Robert,
touch a Trump appointment, and to a committee that didn't have real power. It was a committee that just said, "Look at me, I'm a Trump supporter." It was on fitness, right? Almost everybody at the time in the corporate sector was turning down anything like that, even if they were pro-Trump, because they didn't want to be outed as it.
Some people are rightly pointing out that Trump did make a lot of bad picks in terms of people he chose to surround himself with in terms of loyalty.
She didn't have no power. This was solely to be symbolically significant. This was just about improving fitness in America.
Yep. Well, what was the other point I was just going to make? I guess in fairness, or there's always the option that Elon has. I can dismiss the CEO as quickly as I did Parag and
multiple other contexts. That's why I say odds are she has told him that she is in support of his free speech agenda. So that as you pointed out, it's a relative agenda, as we saw this past weekend with him censoring tweets related to the Turkish election in the middle of the Turkish election, where it looks like, by the way, Erdogan's going to have another miracle comeback because it looked like he was DOA a week ago. Literally in some cases, because he was medically disappeared from public view for a while. And he made clear, look, I'll be transparent when I censor, but I'm going to tell you that there's going to be times when I censor. He said, to his credit, he at least has been transparent about it. Said he responded to you about Alex Jones and said, nope, not going to let him back in because I have personal dislike of him over Sandy Hook, even though it has nothing to do with why he was censored. And so he's made clear. Now, I personally, I responded to him. I think there's a fair debate to be had between the Rumble position versus the Twitter position. The Rumble position was, if you're going to say we have to censor or we have to leave your market, because Musk's defense was, I don't want to leave the Turkish market, so we'll agree to censor to keep access. Pavlovsky's position with Rumble was, no, we will not allow you to censor us as a condition of access to your market. And so they left France entirely. And so the question is, whose position is the more practical one? Is it better to have some speech available in that community, Or is it better to never accept censorship and have a consistent branding ID that you don't accept censorship no matter what as a condition of access? So I think I'm personally side with Rumble's position. I think Musk should address that discussion. I think the new CEO, I guess, is going to do a Twitter Spaces presentation. She should address that because there's a lot of questions about, she pushed aggressively a lot of misinformation. I get it was her job on behalf of the Advertisers Council, but it was still misinformation about the vaccine that led to a lot of harm. What's the risk that she pushes misinformation and tries to suppress dissident information in her new role? And if she's a closet conservative, now's the time to tell the world. Otherwise, Musk endangered his brand and confidence in Twitter with this move.
I'll be the cynic here, putting it together with his recent interview with the BBC, talking about how they lost a lot of revenue. It's worth 20 billion less than it was when he bought it. The stresses that go along with it. I see this as sort of a way of Elon thinking he's making himself bulletproof. Say, like, I'm not an extreme MAGA Republican. Someone called him one of the most conservative Republican people on earth. This is what I think he thinks is the protection. I'm not racist. I have plenty, or I'm not an anti-Semite. I've got plenty of Jewish friends. I'm not a MAGA Republican. I hired Linda Yaccarino as the CEO, and she's on the WEF. So I think he thinks it's an insurance for that in that respect. I think he thinks it's going to be good for advertising. And I think even if it is a question of closet conservative, which I don't think it is, because I don't think he can go to the WEF and say the things she said. And even if she did, and she is a closet conservative, well, it just shows how easily she would say things she doesn't believe in furtherance of a career, which is not a good attribute to have. I think this comes off as an absolute slap in the face of the people who were supporting Elon the most to bring someone on from the WEF who has active affiliation. It might be necessary to preserve Twitter, but I think I think it's bad, and we'll see how it turns out. But I've now thought about it for the better part of the weekend. I think it's bad. I don't see as more likely than not the good explanations. I see it as maybe, he's trying to make himself bulletproof to the left, which you can never do. And in so doing, he's actually slapping in the face the people who supported him, which are not necessarily right-wing people who just don't want to have subversive, indirect, unelected government from the WEF. And by the way, on the Turkey thing, Robert, let me bring this up because I brought up Pavlovsky's tweet from way back in the day. This is from a year ago, November 2022. French government has demanded that Rumble block Russian news sources like Elon Musk. I won't move our goalposts. Well, I guess this isn't true anymore. I won't move our goalposts for any foreign government. Rumble will turn off France entirely. France isn't material to us, although people in France can't get us there, Rumble. And we will challenge the legality of this demand. Now, a lot of people were saying, well, it's the law. But Robert, do you know, or maybe you do know, my understanding is it wasn't even the law. This was just a polite request from the government. It's not that there was legislation that justified the request of Elon to throttle certain tweets. It was just sort of a heavy-handed recommendation request from the government. Do you know more than that than I do?
No, that's my understanding as well. My bet would be that no speech-oriented policy changes on Twitter within the next 6 months. What his motive is and anything else, we'll know more long-term. But that I think is true. Whether or not long-term he plans on sacrificing speech for advertising dollars, we'll find out down the road. So Musk is a billionaire, can do what he wants. I think he's invested a lot of personal credibility in maintaining the freer speech on Twitter. I don't think he'll deviate from that, at least in the short term. But he's not as committed to it as Rumble remains. And so that's where, in truth, Rumble remains now, people had explained that maybe the reason Tucker's talking about going on Twitter is that Twitter's not in his non-compete, whereas Rumble may be. So that may be why he isn't going to Rumble or Valuetainment or One American News Network or Newsmax, is that they're considered competitors, but that social media platforms like Twitter or Facebook are not. And so, in that context, that may be why Tucker's doing what he's doing. But if Musk wants to draw that kind of attention in and that kind of use in of Twitter, I still think he has to follow something closer to the Rumble brand of freer speech than the Advertising Council brand of being advertiser friendly. But we'll find out. I mean, he definitely hired someone whose reputation is, whose background is being advertiser friendly. The question is how significant. I would say that if she's not a closet conservative, it's a very unusual job to take because she's put in a very difficult position either which way she goes. So that's where I lean, slight lean, but I lean that she's actually a closet conservative who won't meaningfully restrict free speech unless it becomes economically necessary at Twitter.
I think if she goes in and screws things up at Twitter and ruins Musk's
Maybe
reputation,
she's being
gets,
Viva Fry right away. You're out of here, buddy. Boom.
no, but she'll get fired. Good for her. I think the WEF would be very happy that she came in and, without even having to work, destroyed the credibility of Musk and Twitter. There was something I was just about to say, which I was going to say about Tucker Carlson announcing that he's going to Twitter. Whether or not he's doing it and not being remunerated, thus not violating any remuneration aspect of a non-compete, whether or not Twitter was not on the non-compete. I was disappointed when he was when he said, I'm going to the last place on the internet that respects free speech. And the next word out of his mouth was not Rumble. I was a little disappointed. Maybe it was just an oversight. Maybe he's trying to kiss up to Twitter and whatever. I don't know. But the week has been interesting in its developments.